Hi yogis, welcome to Yoga Flow. This class is going to be mostly about lengthening out the hamstrings and the back and the hips. We got about a foot of snow dumped on western Washington, where I live, this weekend. And my husband and I like to go out on these long walks, and it turns out that when you walk in the snow, it's about twice as hard. So I'm feeling it. So this is why we are doing this hamstring lengthening practice. This will be an all levels yoga class. A couple of yoga blocks will be helpful, especially when we're working on hamstrings. And so it'll just be kind of mellow, kind of chill, but just working on getting some love in the hamstrings, hips, and low back. So let's begin in child's pose, please. So you're going to move the blocks off to the side, take your knees wide, big toes together, and just sink your hips back over your heels. Let your arms reach forward and your forehead to the floor. And then just observe your low back lengthening out here. Observe your breath starting to become steady and even. Your arms are just reaching forward, and then once you've got them as long as you can, then just let them soften down towards the ground. Let your hips get a little heavier down towards your heels. Observe what's going on right at this moment in the low back and in the hips. And observe what's going on in your breath. Rise on up to all fours. Okay, take your knees back under your hips, and with your fingers spread, just close your eyes here and begin to move your spine in this wave-like pattern in and out of cat-cow. So as you inhale, you arch and look forward, move the shoulder blades down the back. As you exhale, you push the hands into the floor, pull the navel back around the spine. So again, inhale, arching. Exhale, rounding. Notice now the full length of your spine. Notice what's going on in the areas where maybe it feels tighter. And now let's move this into more of a three-dimensional pattern. So we're going to circle the hips and the head, and you're just going nice and slow with the breath. So inhale, you still come into the arch, but then you're going to move more into a circle. So you squeeze the right side waist as you exhale, and then you round. And then you just squeeze into the left side waist, shoulder towards hip, and then you arch. And do this again. Now getting a little more sensation in the sides of the hips. Let's reverse those circles. So from the arch, then you bring left shoulder to hip, squeeze the left waist, and then you round. And as you inhale, squeeze on the right side, and arch. And the head is also moving synchronized with the hips, so maybe you're starting to also feel into the inner shoulders and into maybe the sides and the back of the neck. All right, and one more time through. Good. Let's lower the forearms down to the ground here. And come right up into Dolphin Pose. So curl the toes, lift the hips and the knees, walk the feet in a little bit closer. Keep the heels high, keep the knees bent. And then stick the sit bones up higher. Push the base of your hands down, the base of the thumbs, the entire palm of your hands. Press down, and you're sending the weight of your body back. So push down into the forearms, lengthen back, just stretching through the shoulders here. Lower the knees down, rise up to a high kneeling, come all the way up, reach up with the arms, inhale. And exhale, take the hands behind you, interlace the fingers, press the knuckles down, lift up through the heart, inhale, firm the thighs, hips move forward, heart is lifting. And exhale, come back to all fours. Good, come into downward facing dog, hips reach up and back. And if the back of the legs are really tight today, you can always bend the knees, you can always have your heels higher. Completely up to you and what's going on in your body today. Every day is a little different. And now let's look forward and step the right foot forward between your hands. Lower the back knee down. Come on up with your hands on your front thigh. Send your hips forward, move the shoulder blades down. We're going to start to move through the left arm. So keep the right hand on the leg where it is. Inhale, reach the left arm forward and up. Try to pull the thumb back behind you. And exhale, take the arm forward and down. Look down. Inhale, take the left arm out to the side and up. I'm going to shift my hips back a little bit. And then as you exhale, side bend over to the right. Inhale, reach the left arm up. Take it out to the side and down, shift forward. Inhale, take the left arm straight forward and up. Pull back through the thumb. Exhale, take the arm forward and down. Inhale, out to the side and up, reach up. Exhale, side bend over to the right. Inhale, lengthen the arm up. Take the arm out to the side and down. Exhale, forward. Inhale, forward and up. And then both hands come down to the ground. And you'll straighten through the right leg. So you might want your hands on blocks here for our half Hanumanasana, half splits. We want to try to keep the spine somewhat long, lengthened forward, and somewhat or mostly straight through the right leg. And then we're going to point and flex through this right foot. So pull back on the inhale, and as you exhale, point the foot forward. Flex and pull it back. Inhale. Exhale, place the foot on the floor. Keep moving up and down with the foot like this. And then stay in this flexed position with the ankles, so you're pulling the toes back towards the knees. Reach the spine, long forward, shoulder blades down the back. Come back forward into this front foot. So your right knee is bent. You straighten the back leg for a moment. And then pivot your feet a quarter turn towards the left. And we're coming into a side lunge in the right knee. So you're facing the left side of the mat. Now if this right knee doesn't like this deep flexion, you can be up higher. Maybe forearm is resting on the thigh. Hips a little higher will be more gentle for the right knee. If you can, the hips are lowering down towards the inner ankle, and you're lengthening out through the left leg. Let's pivot ourselves back around to face forward, and then just keep turning your feet around to the right. Keep pivoting on your feet to the right. You're going to place the left hand under the shoulder. Start to lower the left hip down by heel toe the right foot down, 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 until you can get the left hip all the way down. Turn to look towards the back of your mat. Bring the right hand around behind you. So you have your right knee pointing up, and you're turning, twisting to face the back of your mat. Getting a little stretch into the right outer hip here. All right, let's come back up into a supported side plank. So this is a kickstand side plank. So lift your hips away from the floor. You still have your bottom leg extended to the back of the mat. Your top knee is bent, foot is on the floor. And then we're going to switch up this supported side plank. So extend your top leg down towards the back of the mat and bring your bottom knee under you. So just a different variation of a supported side plank here. Let's rise on up on the inhale. Exhale, side bend over your straight right leg. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, left hand down. Circle your top arm forward and down. Inhale, rise up right in the spine. Exhale, side bend. This is Padan gate pose. Side bend over the straight leg. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, top arm circles around. Keep pushing into the right foot. Last time, inhale, rise up. Exhale, side bend. Stay here. Stay in this side bend. So try to push the sole of the right foot down and lift the whole inseam of the leg up. It's not going to lift up very high. But you're just getting some engagement and a little bit of an energetic lift through this inner edge of the right leg. And at the same time, move the right thigh bone slightly back in space. Come on up, right inhale. Windmill your hands to the floor, exhale. And then just come back to a plank pose. Pause here, inhale. Lower the knees to the floor, come all the way down to your belly. Inhale, hands to the floor, roll the shoulders back, rise up to Cobra Pose. Exhale, lower down. Let's do that 2 more times. So firm up your quads, roll the shoulders back. Inhale, lift on up to cobra. Exhale, lower down. 1 more time, roll the shoulders back. Inhale, come up, firming up the quads, trying to ground down through your shin bones. Exhale, lower down. Rise up to all fours, inhale. Come back to child's pose, exhale. You can have the knees either hips distance or wide, your choice. Just pause here. Just take a moment to fill out the back of your body with your breath. And to let the lower back lengthen out. And rise on up to all fours. Inhale, curl your toes under, spread your fingers, downward facing dog. Exhale. Feel free to keep the knees bent or to keep the heels high, or both. One more breath. And then you'll look forward and step the left foot forward between your hands, lower the back knee down. Come on up with the hands on your front thigh. And then we're just going to move through the right arm here. So just keep the left hand where it is. Inhale, your right arm comes forward and up. And imagine your thumb is just magnetized towards the wall behind you. And then exhale, the arm reaches forward and down. Inhale, right arm out to the side and up. Send your hips back just a little bit. And exhale, side bend to the left. Inhale, right arm reaches up to the ceiling. Exhale, arm out wide to the side and down. Shift forward in the hips. Inhale, reach forward and up with the right arm. Thumb is pulling back. Exhale, forward and down. Nice and slow with the breath. Shift back a little bit. Inhale, right arm out to the side, up. Exhale, lean over to the left. Reach up through the arm. Inhale. Exhale, arm out to the side and down. And then shift forward. Inhale, right arm reaches up. Pull back. This should be an opening through the right shoulder as you pull the thumb back. And then place both hands down to the ground. Send your hips back. You might need to wiggle your heel forward a little bit so your hips stay over the right knee. Hands can be on blocks here if the hamstrings are quite tight. And then lengthen the spine forward. So instead of rounding the spine over the front leg, you're trying to lengthen it out. And it might be helpful to have your hands elevated on blocks in order to keep the spine long. And then we'll point and flex through this left foot. So exhale, point the foot. Inhale, pull the toes back towards the knees. You flex the ankle. Exhale and point. Just notice the difference in the sensation between pointing and flexing. Where do you feel it in the left leg? Next time that the ankle is flexed, pull the toes back. Just keep the foot in this position and just keep breathing nice and smooth and even here. Keep the spine long, shoulder blades down the back. Let's come back forward into this front foot and straighten your back leg. So we're in a runner's lunge. And now we're going to pivot a quarter turn towards the right side of the mat, coming into a side lunge. And those are your inner hips waking up here. And remember this, you can be higher up with the hips, resting the forearm on the left thigh, if the knee doesn't like this deep flexion. If you're okay bringing the hips down closer and closer towards the inner ankle, then lengthen out through the right leg and flex the ankle so the toes point up. And press out through the inner edge of the right foot. You might be able to feel this not just in the inseam of the right leg, but also a bit into the right side of the low back. And then you'll turn yourself around. Use your hands to pivot facing forward, and then we're just going to keep turning the feet to the left. So first place the right hand under the shoulder, spread the fingers, and then as you lower the outer edge of the back foot, you're going to just heel toe this left foot down just enough so you can lower the right hip all the way down to the ground. Try to keep this front foot plastered down on the ground, and then your left arm comes around behind you and you twist your upper body towards the back of your mat. It's getting into the outer left hip here, also getting some twist. So try not to just slouch down in the shoulders, still keeping a lift up through the heart, broadening across your collarbones. And then we're going to take this into a supported side plank. So just double check that you've got the wrist under the shoulder or maybe slightly forward. We're going to press into the knife edge side of our back foot and lift up the hips. So this is our kickstand version of a supported side plank. And then we're going to switch to the bottom knee down. So first you extend the top leg to the back of the mat, and then your bottom knee comes under you, and here we are in a supported side plank. And let's rise upright. Inhale, exhale, side bend over your straight leg. Inhale, upright. Exhale, right hand comes down, and it's a big circle through the top arm. Keep pushing down into the left foot. Inhale, upright, and inhale. Exhale, let's side bend to the back. Inhale up. Exhale, lightly place the right hand down, big wide circle through the top arm. Rise up as you inhale, reach out through the arms, palms up. Side bend to the left as you exhale. Stay here, keep breathing. So to really maximize the action in this leg, the stretch and the elongation of this leg, I'm going to push into the four corners of this back foot. Try to lift the arch of the foot and send that lifting action of the arch all the way up the inner edge of the leg, as if I'm trying to lift the flesh of the inner thigh up towards the groin more. To get more length, push the outer edge of the foot down, and then take the thigh bone slightly back towards the hamstrings. So I find those actions just gets the thigh bone centered right in the hip socket so I can side bend some more. And let's come on up, inhale. Windmill your hands to the floor nice and slow. And you'll step the right foot back to plank pose. Inhale here. Lower the knees down, come all the way down to your belly. Let's do 3 cobras, but each one will be a little higher than the next. So point your toes. Roll your shoulders back. Inhale, come up to a low cobra and hover your hands an inch off the floor. Keep the shoulders back. Exhale, lower back down. Roll the shoulders back again. Inhale, come up a little higher. Keep the hands down, but don't put a lot of weight in the hands. This be more about the back. And exhale, lower yourself back down. Firm your thighs. Roll the shoulders back. Inhale, come up a little bit higher. Maybe not to your full cobra height. Maybe about 2/3 of that height. And then lower it back down. There we go. Let's come on up to all fours. Inhale. Stay here in all fours. Let's reach up through the right arm. Inhale. Exhale, tuck the right arm under you and twist to the left. Do that 2 more times. Inhale, right arm opens up as you twist right. Exhale, twist left as the arm tucks under you. 1 more. Inhale, open up to the right. Exhale, take the right arm under you. Now you're going to bring the shoulder and the side of the head all the way down and wrap your left arm around behind the opposite hip. Try to wiggle the fingers into the outer thigh crease. And then send your sit bones back behind you. Trying to get some length and some traction in the spine, even as you're twisting it, especially as you're twisting it. Unwind your left arm. Reach it forward beyond the top edge of the mat. Press all 5 finger pads down. And then as you root down into the left fingers, you're going to unwind the right arm. Reach it forward alongside the left arm. Come into puppy pose. So you're on all 10 finger pads. Lift up through the arm bones. Soften the heart down. Reach your sit bones back. Rotate your biceps up. Just hovering your face an inch away from the floor. Rise back up, bring the hands under you. Sit back on your heels. Let's curl the toes under. We'll stretch through the feet and then we'll twist to the other way. So interlace the fingers behind you and press the knuckles down. Lift up through the heart. And alternate rolling one shoulder back and then tilt your head away from that shoulder that you're rolling. And then roll the other shoulder back and tilt your head opposite of that shoulder. So if my right shoulder is rolling back, I'm tilting my head to the left ear over shoulder, and then I roll the left shoulder back and I tilt my right ear towards the right shoulder. And then come on upright, release your hands, and bring your hands underneath your shoulders back into all fours. Okay, here we go. Left arm opens up, inhale. Look up to the left. Exhale, tuck the left arm under you, look to the right. Inhale, unwind the left arm and reach it up. Exhale, tuck the left arm under you, twist to the right. One more. Inhale, left arm opens. And exhale, this time we come all the way down with the left shoulder. Keep that left arm long, reaching to the right. Side of the head comes down. Right arm wraps around behind your hips. Maybe wiggle the fingers towards the outer thigh crease or into the outer thigh crease. Reach your sit bones back. Just try to get in some length in the spine as we twist it. And then we'll unwrap the right arm, reach it forward beyond the top edge of your mat. Come onto all 5 finger pads of your right hand. Push down into your right fingers. Unwind the left arm. Reach the left arm forward, coming into puppy pose. Both arms are forward, parallel to each other. Push into the finger pads, and then float the rest of your arms up. From the center of your palm through the center of the armpits. Float up. Soften the ribs down, puppy pose. Tilt your sit bones up. Send your hips back. Even though they stay over your knees, you're still trying to get length from all up and down the spine by pulling back on the hips. And then lift your ribs up away from the floor. Walk the hands back under you. Come into downward facing dog. Fingers are spread. And let's walk the knees out here. And try to paw the ground with your feet and your toes, kind of like what a cat would do when it's settling in on its favorite blanket or on your lap. Just pawing the ground like you're trying to squeeze the floor with your toes, and then you do that with one foot as you relax the other foot, and you just keep going back and forth as your heels lift up and down. And we'll look forward, lift the heels, walk the feet forward to the top of the mat, and the first forward fold. Uttanasana. Now remember, your hands can be on blocks here. If you're particularly tight in the back body today, you can also bend the knees if you'd like. Just don't try to jam your legs straight, especially if that creates any discomfort. You don't want to lock the back of the knees. And then let's push down into the feet, bend the knees softly, rise straight up to stand. Let's reach the arms up at the top, inhale, and hands to the heart, exhale. Okay. Do some half sun salutations. So standing in your mountain pose, feet are hips distance apart, inner edges of your feet are parallel. Spread your toes, root down through the 4 corners of your feet. And then lift the energy from the arches of your feet all the way up the bone marrow of your legs, and then up the spine. And send the crown of the head taller up towards the ceiling. Find your breath smooth and steady. Lower the arms on the exhale. Inhale, circle out and up overhead with the arms look up. Exhale forward and down to Uttanasana. Use blocks if you need to under the hands. Bend your knees. Inhale, lengthen the spine halfway forward. Exhale and forward fold. Push down into the feet. Inhale, rise up with your knees softly bent. Rise up to stand. Reach the arms up overhead and bring the hands to the heart. Exhale. Let's do that again. Lower the arms down by the side. Push down into the feet. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, forward and down. Uttanasana. Fingertips to the floor or to blocks. Bend your knees, reach the spine halfway forward. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Push the feet down, bend the knees softly, rise up on the inhale. Arms rise up at the top and hands to the heart. Exhale. Let's add on to that. Lower the arms down by the side. Push the feet down. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, come forward and down. Uttanasana. Bend the knees. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward. Now grab your blocks. Step the right foot back. We're going to come into a cat-cow from here. So we just want a little bit more elevation to get more movement in the spine. So inhale, let's lift up high onto the hands, send the heart forward and up and the crown of the head up. The hips will come down a little bit. And then exhale, push down into the left foot and lift the hips and round through the spine. Let the head just lower down. Inhale, shift forward. Your hips come down and the crown of the head lifts. And exhale, it's the opposite. The hips come up more and the crown of the head descends down. So inhale like you're lengthening out through the front of your spine, up through the heart. Exhale, you lengthen out through the back of the spine. One more like this. Inhale. You're lengthening from the pubic bone all the way up through the hairline. And then exhale, push into the left foot and round. Stay in this position. Maybe start to straighten the front leg. You can hop the back foot in a little bit and lower the heel. The back foot will be very slightly angled out to the side. Try not to line up your heels as if you're standing on a tightrope, because that will be a little bit more wobbly. So there's a little bit of lateral space between your 2 feet. And you're sending your left hip back, lengthening out over your mostly straight left leg. Just don't lock the back of the knee, especially if you're really flexible, hypermobile. Be careful you're not locking the back of the left knee. And then let's lengthen the spine halfway forward. Inhale here. Right hand stays on the block if you have the blocks. We're going to come into Revolve Triangle. Send your left hip back. Start to turn to the left and then reach your left arm up. Can you keep your back heel rooted down? Can you keep your hips moving back, your spine reaching forward out through the crown of your head, and then turn your body upwards, reach up higher through your top fingertips. And then most importantly, can you still breathe here even as you're twisting? Do your best to keep a smooth, steady breath. All right, we're going to slowly lower the left hand down and then walk your hands towards the right long side of your mat. Parallel your feet and just come into a forward fold right between the space between your legs. So your feet are parallel and they're wide. Just walking the hands back to the space between your feet. Your fingers point forward. Lift the flesh of your inner knees and the flesh of the flesh of the inner thighs. And lift the front of the thighs up and try not to lock the back of your knees. Lengthen halfway. Inhale, lunge to face the front. Lower your back knee down. And inhale, let's rise up through the arms. So that was a lot of forward bending. We're going to come into a little bit of a back bend. So I'm just going to give us a moment here in this more or less neutral position. So notice my hips are back a little bit. I'm not shifting my hips forward. I'm just getting a neutral position in the hips and in the back. before we come into a little bit more of a back bend. I just wanted to counterpose all that forward bending that we just did. So now we are a little bit more ready, and you can stay here if you want to. Let's interlace the fingers behind the back of the head. You can keep the hips back if your low back is sensitive. Otherwise, shift your hips forward, lean your head back into your hands, and open your elbows wide. Lift your heart up, send your tailbone down. Get a little bit of lifting and engaging through the lower abdomen. And that will help to protect the low back. Hips go forward to whatever degree works for you. The more your hips go forward, the more your heart is lifting up. And you're leaning back. Keep your head heavy in your hands. And let's guide the head up. Reach up through the arms. Exhale, hands to the floor. Nice and steady. And just stay here in this lizard pose. Bring your hands inside your left foot. Walk your left foot over to the left a little bit. And just let the hands rest under your shoulders here. And if you'd like, you can bring your forearms onto blocks, coming a little bit lower. You're coming lower inside the front leg. If you are open in this front hip, maybe your forearms can come down to the ground. Just know that it's not a contest to see who's the most flexible. Stop at whatever variation feels best for you. And if you're not sure where that edge is for you, pay attention to your breath. If your breath starts to get choppy or erratic, it's a sign that you've gone too far and you'll need to back out a little bit. If you can be in the pose and your breath is still steady, and you're not squishing up your face or making your mouth tight, your lips, your tongue, your eyes, if everything can still be soft, then you're probably staying in the right position for you, the right edge for you. Let's lift the head. You can remove the blocks if you were using them, and let's press back to downward facing dog. Reach the hips back, reach your inner heels back. Turn the biceps so they rotate forward. Triceps rotate back. One more breath. And on the next exhale, let's look forward, walk the feet to the top of the mat. Lengthen halfway forward when you get there. Bend the knees, reach the spine forward. Exhale, fold in your Uttanasana. All right, so we'll be here for a little bit. You can do a variation if you'd like to. Let's go with a variation with the shoulder opener. So if you want, interlace the fingers behind you, and you can just let the front body drape on the front of the thighs. The upper body drapes on the front of the thighs. And then reach the arms up and away from your back. Big shoulder opener here. So if this is too much, keep the hands closer to your back, or you can just keep the hands on the floor, especially if you feel like you need to support your low back. Hands on floor will feel nicer here. Notice if you have the arms reaching up towards the ceiling. Notice if you're shifting the weight into the balls of your feet a lot. Can you keep the weight even between the balls and the heels of the feet, between the front, the inner and outer edge of your feet? If you have your arms up in the air, release them back down. Release your hands to the floor. Lengthen halfway forward again. Inhale. Exhale, step your left foot back to a lunge. Now let's bring the hands back onto the blocks. We're going to go through our cat-cow from this runner's lunge again. So make sure you have the right heel directly under the knee. When we're using the blocks, just so we can get more lift when we go into the the expansion of the spine. So let's inhale, send the hips down a little bit. Keep reaching through the back heel though, and lift up through the heart. You're lengthening up through the front of the spine. And then exhale, push down into the front foot, lift the hips, lift up through the back of the heart, but let the head lower down. Inhale, and again, you're lengthening from the hips up through the crown of the head. Exhale, push into the front foot and lengthen out more through the back of the spine. 2 more times. Inhale. Shoulders move down and back. Lift the crown of the head higher. Exhale. Push into the front foot. Round. Let the head lower down. And last one. Inhale. Shoulders move down and back. Keep the collarbones broad. Reach up through the head. Exhale, stay here. So push into the front foot, lower the head, lift through the back of the heart, and then start to straighten your front leg and bring your back foot in another inch or so and lower the back heel down. So the back foot is very slightly angled out. And just check that your heels are not lined up in exactly the same plane, like on a tightrope. There's a slight lateral channel between your feet. Send your outer right hip back. Hands on blocks will be helpful here if the back of the legs are tight. Keep spiraling the inner left thigh back, and it's not going to be a big movement. It's more of an intention than it is a physical or a visual movement. Let's lengthen halfway forward. Inhale. Place the left hand a little more under the shoulder. Maybe bring it in more to the right just a little bit. And then reach the right arm up. You're twisting to the right. Keep sending the outer right hip back. And then reach up higher through the top right arm. Can you keep your back heel down and the spine reaching forward? And your hips moving back. And from after you get all of that, turn a little bit more and then keep the smooth, steady breath. Send your left thigh back, your outer right hip back. Don't hold your breath. Lower your right hand nice and slow, lower it down. And then we'll just walk our hands towards the left side of the mat. Turn your feet so your toes point towards the long side of the mat. Check that your feet are parallel to each other, and then lower your upper body down. Walk your hands back between your feet. You can use hands on blocks here if you like, that's fine. So keep the thigh muscles engaged and lifted. We don't want to just get all slack and passive in the legs. There's actually some lifting, some engaging going on, but just don't overdo the straightening of your legs. We don't want to lock through the back of the knees. This actually creates, when you lock the back of the legs, and this is more for people who tend to be hypermobile, it weakens the joint, the cartilage in the joint, and it can cause some problems for you over time. So we just want to make sure we're using more muscular integrity. If you need to remind yourself to keep a soft bend in the knees, and this is if you know that you're hypermobile, keep a soft bend in the knees and keep using more muscular effort in the legs. Now let's lengthen halfway forward. Inhale. Just turn your right toes forward, come to a lunge facing forward, and we'll lower the back knee down. Bring the right foot out to the right just a little bit so the hands can come inside the front foot. And here we are in our lizard pose. So your left knee is down. And before I come down onto forearms, I like to just take a moment to let the body adapt to this new shape, especially if there's some stiffness going on in the hips or in the low back. I like to let the body adapt before moving on. So you can stay here with straight arms, or you can bring the blocks under you and lower your forearms down onto the blocks. And I recommend going into this halfway stage first before bringing forearms to floor. If you know you can bring the forearms to the floor, that's great. But it could be helpful for the body to just take it in some smaller stages first before you just come all the way into the deepest part of the pose. so the body has some time to adapt. Now, if you know everything so far so good, and if the inner right hip is doing okay, and the low back is fine, you can consider removing the blocks and bringing your forearms all the way to the floor. I'm being totally honest with myself right now, and I can tell that my inner right hip is just fine right where I am with my forearms on the blocks, so I'm going to stay here. And you're breathing into the back of your heart, the back of the lungs. Breathe into the base of the lungs. You can lower the head if you'd like here, and just letting the sides and the back of the neck relax. And then we'll lift up the head, move the blocks off to the side. Heel toe the right foot so it's directly under the knee, and come on back up. Now, we've spent a lot of time in some more forward bends, so let's start in this upright position with the hips back a little bit. So we're not coming into a back bend right away. We will have an opportunity in just a moment to come into a little bit of a back bend, but for now, let's just find something more of a neutral positioning, alignment in the spine before we come into a back bend. So I just have the hips back a little bit, letting the body adjust to this shape. And then let's reach the arms up, interlace the fingers, and place the hands behind your head. Now you can stay here, just leaning your head back into your hands and enjoying this stretch through the shoulders, or you can slowly start to bring the hips forward. So this is going to get into the hip flexor of the left leg and a little bit of a back bend. So to protect the back, I'm just going to demonstrate here. You can keep the hands behind your head. I want to let the tailbone get heavy. Imagine I've got like this big dinosaur tail, and it's drawing down, and the low belly is lifting up, and that's going to keep some length and some space in the low back, even as I'm moving into a bit of a back bend. The heart is lifting, the elbows are wide, the head is heavy, resting back in the hands. Lower belly lifting, tailbone heavy. Push down into the right foot. And then let's lift the head, reach up through the arms, inhale, place the hands down nice and slow to the ground, downward facing dog. Walk out through your legs. It's not just the knees, it's everything. It's the feet, the ankles, the knees, and the hips are moving, just one leg and then the other. Just getting some movement back here. And then let's look forward, lift the heels, walk to the top of the mat, lengthen halfway forward. When you get there, exhale and forward fold. Okay, this time Padan Gustasana, hand to finger to big toe pose. Take your feet slightly wider than hips distance. Hold on to your big toes with your peace fingers, and your thumbs wrap around the top. Bend your knees, lengthen forward, draw the shoulder blades down the back, reach the spine forward, and then exhale, fold back down. Your legs move towards straight. Now if this is too much, you don't have to hold on to your big toes. You can do this with knees bent, or you can just come back to hands on blocks. Otherwise, push your toes down into your fingers, bend your elbows out to the side, pull with your fingers, pull up on your toes. That will draw your spine downward more. Keep your legs active, so keep the flesh lifting up the inner and the front edge of your thighs. Super soft bend in your knees. Unless you need more of a bend, that's fine. Toes press down, fingers pull up. As the fingers pull up, you might even feel like the shoulders draw back, the shoulders and the shoulder blades. And you get more length in your neck and more elongation in the spine. And then you'll release your toes. Let's take the feet wide and angle them out and lower your hips and come into a squat. This is going to get into the low back. So elbows to inner knees, lengthen the spine up. Try to keep the shoulders down. Keep the base of the skull lifting up and the tailbone is heavy again. And ideally we want the heels to be down so that we're not straining through the Achilles tendon. So if you need to slide a folded blanket under your heels, that's fine, but please do that. You might just need to simply adjust the positioning of your feet, maybe taking them wider or angling them out and just in the right way so that the heels come down. So try experimenting if the heels are not quite down. Hands to the floor. Straighten your legs, lifting your hips, heel toe your feet back to hips distance. And then bend the knees and let's rise on up to stand. Reach the arms up at the top. And hands to the heart. Exhale, just close your eyes. Find your steady mountain pose. Just lifting up slightly again through the low belly, letting the tailbone lengthen down. You're not tucking the hips under you. Keep the hips in neutral, but imagine you've got that heavy tailbone. Lift up through the base of the skull. I'll turn and face you for this one. So we're going to come into a tree pose. So I will mirror you. So we'll start with the right foot. So step on the left foot and bring the right foot, sole of the foot to the inner shin, and the right knee is out to the side. So this is a beginner's tree pose. You might even want to have your big toe on the floor just so that you feel the connection of that foot to the floor and it's not a full-on balance pose. Otherwise, can you bring the foot to the inner shin? Now try not to move your gaze around the room like I'm doing right now. Fix your gaze on one spot on the floor just in front of you. That's called your drishti, your gazing point, and it helps with balance if we're not moving the gaze around. Smooth, steady breath. Now, if you can, bring the leg a little higher up. If the foot ends up at the inner knee, just don't press the foot into the knee. Let it rest softly. You might need to use more leg muscles. So you're not pushing the foot against the knee. We just don't want to strain the knee joint. If you can, take the knee higher, hold the ankle, and place the foot high up on the inner thigh. The heel is closer to the groin. And then if you have the foot at the inner thigh, push the foot into the thigh, firm the thigh against the foot. So there's like they're both body parts, the foot and the inner thigh are pushing into each other, kind of like what your hands are doing here. Lift up more through the head. And if you like at this point now, reach your arms up. Interlace your fingers, Uttara Bodhi Mudra. So your index fingers point up and reach your index fingers up towards the ceiling. Make yourself steady here. Steady your gaze. Steady your breath. Lower the hands. Stay right here. I'm going to give you a couple of options here for this next pose. So we're going to see if we can straighten the leg and hold the big toe. And if we can't, I'll let you know what to do. Okay? So we're going to reach the hand down for the big toe and hold with your peace fingers. Start with your right knee bent. And if this is already too much for you, release the toe and just hold on to the knee. And you'll keep the knee out to the side and that's where you'll stay. Okay? Otherwise, you hold onto the big toe. Your arm is inside the leg. Lift up through the spine. And if you can, straighten the leg out to the side. Nice inner hamstring stretch with the balance. And I have my left arm out to the side here, and I've got this Gyan Mudra. Index and thumb tips touch. Extend your other 3 fingers. Helps with focus. Let's bend this right knee if you had the leg straight and place the foot down. Okay. You can shake out through the left foot because we were standing on that for quite a while. All right. Ready? Other side. So, hands to heart. Start by turning your left knee out and place the foot against the inner ankle. You can have the big toe on the floor if balance is unsteady for you. By the way, you can also come closer to a wall and just place one hand against a wall for balance. You can start to slide the foot up the inner shin, so you're truly balancing on your right foot now. Your left knee is out to the side. Now, when we start balancing, you might notice that we have to use a little bit more core muscles to keep us steady, to keep our upper body from doing something different from what the lower body is doing. We're trying to stay steady. If you want to slide the foot up a little higher, maybe towards the inner knee, just don't press it at the inner knee. Keep it light. You might need to use more leg muscles so you're not pushing the foot against the knee. All right, and if you can, take the knee up higher, hold the ankle just so you can place the foot high up the inner thigh, and hands come back to the heart. And then if you have the foot against the thigh, firm the thigh muscle against the foot, the inner thigh muscle. Push the foot into the thigh and the thigh back into the foot. Knee is still out wide to the side, right? And then let's reach the arms. You can keep hands at the heart if you like. It's a little bit more of a challenge to your balance if you reach your arms up. Fingers interlaced, except for your index finger. Point those up and reach up more. This is also a gesture of focus. You might find when some people are thinking, if they're being videoed, maybe in a room full of other people, if they're thinking, they'll go like this. It's a gesture. It's a gesture of focus. Even people who aren't yogis, they instinctively find this gesture with their hands. So to keep you focused as you balance here, try to keep from swaying. Steady your gaze. Remember that part. Steady your breath. So we'll just lower the hands and see if we can come into the next version of this balance pose. So you're going to release the foot, bring the knee higher, maybe hold on to the knee, and maybe this is where you stay. By the way, you can hold just the back of the leg and extend your leg straight out to the side, or reach down the inner edge of your leg, hold on to the big toe, come back upright, make sure you're upright, both your hips are level, and then see if you can extend your left leg out to the side. And I immediately find this Gyan Mudra with my right hand, is because I started wobbling, and as soon as I found this Gyan Mudra, then it helped me to regain my balance and my focus. Also a gesture of focus, concentration. Index and thumb tips touch on the right side. Left leg is lengthening out from the groin out through the inner heel. Spine is reaching up tall. And then we're going to bend this left knee, place the foot down, and you'll just shake out through the right leg. Okay, so here we go. Come back to the top of the mat. Reach up through the arms. Inhale. Exhale, come forward and down. Lengthen up through the spine. Inhale. Exhale to downward facing dog. Okay, so what have we covered so far? We've done lots of hamstrings. We've gotten into the low back a bit, but we haven't done too much outer hips yet. So we'll do pigeon next. Ekapataraja Kapotasana. Inhale, your right leg rises behind you to three-legged dog. Exhale, bring your knee forward as you bend the knee, bring the knee forward, and then you're going to bring the knee to the right and the foot to the left and lower the outer shin down underneath you. This is our pigeon pose. Now, a couple of points here. If the right knee is sensitive and it does not like this pose, or if the hips are really tight, your knee may not like this pose. So what you can do instead is come onto your back, cross the right ankle over the left knee, and pull the left leg in towards you. Kind of the same idea and the same sensation. This is just a bit more, this face down version is a bit more of a stretch. And you want the knee, if you're face down, you want the knee behind the wrist, and the foot is over to the left, somewhere over to the left. And then you'll lower down onto your forearms or onto blocks if you like. And maybe let the head just rest down on the hands. I do recommend letting the head rest on something. Maybe a block, maybe a bolster if you have it. Maybe you stack your forearms and let your head rest on that. If the head can rest on something, then it is softer for the nervous system. And the pose will just become more restful and relaxing. Your head weighs about 10 pounds, so it's quite demanding work on the neck to keep your head up all day. And softening the head, letting it rest, is just going to soften through the nervous system. Let's do 3 more breaths here. Let's lift the head, come onto the hands, and then we're going to lower the right hip down to the floor and swing the left leg around. Hold on to the outer edge of the left foot with your right hand, and then you're going to twist to the left, so your left arm reaches back. Now you can either have your left knee bent as you push the left foot forward and your left arm back, or you can straighten the left leg and back into hamstrings again with a twist. So lift the spine up, twist back, and look back as you reach the left foot forward. Leg straight or bent, your choice. Try not to just collapse the spine down. Keep it lifted as you twist. And then we'll unwind the twist. And we'll place this left leg. I realize that my mat has gotten a little crooked. I don't know about you, but I don't like my mat to be crooked. All right, so we had the right knee bent, we had the left leg straight. We're going to keep the left leg straight with that leg down on the ground and bring the right sole of the foot inside the left knee. Take the flesh back and away from the left sit bone just to get some stay grounded through the sit bone. Let's reach up tall through the spine. I'm going to angle myself a little bit. So right knee is bent out to the side, left leg is forward. And then exhale, you'll just lengthen forward out over the left leg. I like this pose a lot because it gets into the side of the back, especially on my right side, the bent knee side. So you want to keep the hands down at first and try to pull the lower back forward like you're pulling it out of the hips and lengthening it forward over the left leg. Keep the ankle flexed on the left foot. Shoulder blades go down the back, and feel like there's more of a lengthening going on this right side, the bent knee side. If you want, you can hold on to the left foot with your right hand and use that to pull out even more through the right side. So this muscle on the low back on the right side is quadratus lumborum. It attaches from the back of the base of your ribs to the back of your hip. There's one on each side. And this muscle is chronically tight for many people. So we're just letting it just lengthen out. And let's lift up, release the foot, lift up. And we're going to counterpose that with a Stargazer Pose. So your right hand, the bent knee side, the right hand comes to the floor outside the hip. You roll onto the shin, lift up your hips, reach your left arm up and over, keep the left foot down, lengthen from the left wrist through the ankle, get long as the hips go forward, and then exhale, lower your hips back down. All right, you just swing your left leg back and come into downward facing dog, and we'll do that whole sequence on the other side. Pause in downward dog for just a moment. Fingers are spread. Push the floor away. Reach your hips back. Maybe the legs are a little bit straighter now in your downward dog. And see if anything has changed since you first started this video. And then lift the left leg up into the air. Inhale. Exhale, left leg comes forward into pigeon. So the knee comes towards the back of behind the left wrist, and the outer shin lowers down. So you have the foot over to the right, somewhere over to the right. And the knee is behind the left wrist. So come upright first through the spine, and your arms are long, and your back leg is reaching back behind you. And then exhale, you lower down onto your elbows. And remember, you can take this onto your back with the left ankle crossed over the right thigh. if this is creating any discomfort for the left knee. And because when the hips are tight, sometimes the knee is trying to be helpful to get your body in the position. If the hips are tight, the knee is trying to compensate, and we don't want the knee to compensate. It is a more fragile joint, so feel free to modify by taking this on your back if you feel like the knee is talking to you in an unpleasant voice. If you can, let the head rest on a block or on your stacked forearms. Just allowing the neck to take a break, neck muscles to take a break. Close your eyes, breath is steady and even and slow. And then let's inhale, lift the head, come up onto your hands again. And we'll lower the left hip down. Swing the right leg forward. We'll come into the twist. So hold on to the outer edge of the right foot with your left hand. Start to twist to the right. Reach your right arm back. Now remember, you can always keep the right knee bent. I'll angle myself to the front just a little bit. You can keep the right knee bent if you'd like, or you can reach the leg forward and long. Lift the spine up. Lift up out of your hips. Reach back through the right arm. Doesn't matter if your front knee is bent or straight. It does matter that you keep the spine lifted and long. And then you'll unwind the twist back through center and release your right leg down. And I've just come off the mat and angled myself a little bit because I'm trying to make myself a little bit more visible. So we're going to bring the left sole of the foot inside the right knee and take the flesh back and away from the right sit bone. So we can ground down through that sit bone a little bit more. Try to center your body over your straight right leg. It's directly in front of you. Lift up through the spine. Inhale, get long. Exhale, you're lengthening out over the right leg. So you're not just rounding down. You're lengthening out. Keep the ankle flexed because we want to keep some muscular engagement going in this leg so we don't overdo the stretch. You think of reaching the lumbar spine forward out of the pelvis. Hands can be on the floor here, or if you can, you reach for the right foot with your left hand. And then if you can make that connection, try to pull your left side of your low back forward even more. And I have the right hand under me, under the shoulder, like a kickstand. Think I'm focused more on the left side of the low back, the quadratus lumborum, trying to lengthen that out. And of course, there's some elongation going in the hamstrings on the right leg. Mostly the emphasis is on the spine being long rather than just rounding the spine. So it's more the belly button is coming down towards the thigh rather than the head coming down towards the shin. And then let's lift ourselves up, walk your hands in, come up, and then we'll do our Stargazer counter pose. So your left hand comes down to the floor just 6 inches or so away from the hip. Push into the hands, lift the hips, roll onto the shin, and hips forward, reach up and over with your top arm. Push down into your right foot, hips keep moving forward, and then turn your chest up. So you're making the whole right side of the body long. And exhale, lower the hips down, lower the arm, and then just come onto your back. Sit in the middle of the mat and lower all the way onto the back. Just hug the knees in towards you. In a few moments, you have the option of taking legs up the wall, Viparita Karani. if you have a wall space near you. And if you don't, you can just stick your legs up just right where you are. But that's in a moment. We'll do a twist first. So take the arms out to the side. Your knees are bent. Your feet are up off the floor. Shift your hips over to the left an inch or so, and then lower both of your legs over to the right. Now, if this is too tight, consider elevating your legs on a folded blanket, a block, or a bolster. Please don't feel like you have to suffer through any of these yoga poses if it just feels uncomfortable or if it's too much for you. The props really do wonders. I highly recommend getting 2 blocks, a blanket, yoga blanket, and a bolster, and then you can just make the poses work for you. I will always offer modifications, almost always. Sometimes I forget, but for most poses I will offer modifications if the pose doesn't feel right for you. We want to try to keep the left shoulder blade down and you're reaching out long through the left arm. And then as you inhale, bring your knees back up. Place the feet down and level out your hips. Let's bring the feet back up again. Shift your hips to the right an inch or so and then lower both of your legs down to the left. Feel free to prop the legs up on some kind of lift if it's just too intense, having your legs all the way on the ground. So even if you have a big plush bath towel, you can fold that up pretty tight and slide that underneath your legs or even between your legs. It might feel nice on the low back. The right shoulder blade stays down and you reach out longer through the right arm. Try to move your lumbar spine in towards your body more. So we're just keeping a neutral alignment in the spine as we twist. And then your knees come back up, inhale, and place your feet on the floor. Okay, so this is the part where if you want to, you can scoot in closer to a wall and stick your legs up the wall, and I'll show you what that would look like. So I'm going to move my blocks, and I am actually going to use my blanket for this to create a little bit more elevation. So I'll use my blanket sort of like a low bolster. So this will come under my hips. So I sit to one side of the blanket, and in one swoop, I take my legs up the wall and my hips onto the blanket or maybe a bolster. And I don't recommend a really high bolster. You might, if you have a lower, smaller one, just so that it's not creating strain in the spine. And then the back of your legs just go right up the wall. And if you don't have an empty wall space near you, that's fine. Just do this with your legs up. And you can even have your hips on a block if you don't have the wall near you. You can do this with your hips on a block and your legs up in the air. If you're at the wall, maybe using the blanket under you. And then we're going to let this be our Shavasana. So if you don't have the wall, and if your legs are up in the air, just keep them up for about 3 or 4 more breaths, and then you'll lower your legs. If you don't have the wall, you'll lower your legs and move the block, and you'll come into Shavasana in the next couple of breaths. If you do have your legs up the wall, this is a restorative, very restful pose. So as much as you can, just eliminate any effort to keep your legs up. Just think of the weight of gravity pressing down on the legs is holding them in place. And you don't have to effort here. Arms are by your side, palms are face up, and your arms are slightly angled away from the body. Back of your head is centered on the floor, and if you did not have the wall space, by this point you should be in Shavasana with your legs down. Your eyes are closed. The breath is slowed down here, and you're observing your breath. You're observing the body softening. And if you're at the wall space with your legs up, you're observing this slightly subtle but pleasant draining sensation in the feet and ankles. Stagnant lymphatic and venous fluid recirculating. Just letting gravity assist our circulatory system. No effort on your part. Just allow it to be. Notice if you're still carrying tension in the parts of your body that you have identified already that carry tension. If you haven't identified it already, just scan your body from top to bottom and notice, do you carry tension in the brow, in the jaw, in the shoulders, in the hands and fingers, or in the abdomen? Try to soften each of those areas. And every time you come into Shavasana, just notice where's the areas that keep wanting to remain gripping. And your job is to keep encouraging those areas to soften. If you're at the wall, let's bend the knees, place the feet on the wall. If you're on the ground, with your legs on the ground, bend your knees, place your feet on the floor. We'll all roll over to one side. And use your hands to press yourself up to seated. Bring your hands together at the heart once you get there. Close your eyes. Bow your head. Just bowing to the goodness, the radiant love in your own heart. And lift your gaze. I thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.